Well, the bad news is that Los Angeles is an ash heap. The good news is that their fire department has zero homophobia. In November 2022, the LA Fire Department launched its first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau. This was part of a broader commitment by then Mayor Eric Garcetti and Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, the department's first female and openly LGBTQ+ fire chief, to address historical issues of discrimination and promote diversity within the department. We have a lot to make up for to meet our goals of trying to double the number of women that are in our department, Garcetti said. Latino firefighters have also face discrimination, as have gay and lesbian LGBTQ firefighters, making the fire department more friendly to flamers. What could go wrong? This also involved hiring Christine Larson, she/her, as the department's first deputy chief in the Equity and Human Resources Bureau. Here she is.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
Which is good news if your house is burning down and you look like Steve Urkel or Jumbo Blake Griffin. She also talked about some of the pushback she gets as a female fire person.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Carry people out of a fire? I'd be surprised if she could slide down the pole. Then again, they've probably replaced them with easy climbers. And I bet the new calendars are disgusting. LA Mayor Karen Bass cut the fire department's budget by $17 million in the last city budget, but they made sure to make it to the local Pride Parade to shake hands with George Takei. They also made sure to pay this woman reportedly almost $500,000 in salary and benefits. All that diversity isn't going to equity itself. We've all seen the horrific scenes from the LA fires. There's lots of real human tragedy going on there, but the left can only focus their energy on fake problems. Most firefighters being men is not a problem. Part of your state that's larger than the island of Manhattan going up in flames is. When a real problem comes around, all the left's fake problems are exposed for what they are: power grabs. The left have built their entire platform on combating things like homophobia, xenophobia, racism, misogyny, etc. Defined the way leftists define them, these are problems without solutions. Fires, floods, a broken border, rampant crime, those can be fixed. They don't, however, further the left's political agenda, so there's no interest in fixing them. What's the point? As I've said before, the right kind of chaos is good for them. California is a great example of what happens when you let real problems go and spend all your money and energy fighting fake problems. Today, I talked to Doug TenNapel, an artist and storyteller who was born and raised in California, about how that state shaped him and what happened to it. Enjoy. So, Doug, you were born in California, born and raised. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And how long was your family there before you were born?
My dad was born there. Mom was born in Wisconsin, but dad was born in Southern California. So I was born in Norwalk, California. So LA goes through my blood.
Yeah.
And then right around fourth grade, I think it was 1976, we moved from LA/Orange County up to Denair, California. It's an outskirt of Turlock, outskirt of Modesto, outskirt of Sacramento, the heart of the San Joaquin Valley. When I was in fourth grade, that's where I graduated high school.
Okay.
So I have a lot of that San Joaquin Valley, kind of the farming in me. And I've watched those farms collapse under environmental concerns for that Delta smelt. Has been going on for 25, 30 years now, and there's a massive industrialization of farming there. But then of course, after college, I went down to San Diego for college in 1984, graduated from Point Loma Nazarene College in 88, stayed in San Diego, moved up to Orange County in 92, and that's where I made Earthworm Jim, right around that Orange County, Irvine area. And then from that opened up my animation career. So I moved in the late 90s up to Los Angeles, up to Glendale, which is right next to that La Cañada fire right now.
Right.
So, and then I stayed there for about 10 years and then moved out here to Tennessee. Yeah. So it goes through my blood.
Yeah.
I love that state. It's my favorite. I'm just a soft Southern Californian to the core.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who are on the right politically, they see California and they know the political ideas that are going on there. And so you've got people commenting from the outside going like, why would anybody ever want to live there? But there have been people have their roots there and obviously are dedicated to it. But what is it? I mean, obviously you're excited about it because that was where you were raised and people love it because they have history there. But why would anybody ever live in Southern California?
It's the greatest state. So just for natural resources, you're an hour and a half away from the beach, the mountains, skiing, a desert.
Yeah.
And then for people that want perfect weather year round, that's as close as you're going to get.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if you want, I know we're weird. I despise seasons. I hate it's snowing for the first day right now out here in Franklin, Tennessee. I hate it.
Yeah.
I walk outside and it's trying to kill me. And like fall and winter, it just looks like death. Like all the leaves fall off and all the trees are all bald. I'm just like, what a disgusting place.
Everything's dying. Death. This isn't 75. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so the weather and then the convenience, those coastal towns, on the beach. Because even when we lived in the San Joaquin Valley, right, it's overheating in Denair/Turlock, but you're an hour and a half from the beach. So you can go out to San Francisco, all along the coastal communities. Now, because the coastal communities are the nicest coast you could possibly live on, it has attracted the richest soft elites in the world live there in concentration. And every year we go to Solana Beach. That's right by the Del Mar racetrack, North San Diego. We go there every summer, and we've gone there at this condo, the beloved Miss TenNapel and I and our 4 kids, for 30 years.
Okay.
So it is, our family has pictures in this condo. We raised everything, and you just kind of walk around. It's very expensive, but that's where we want to spend our money. Yeah. It's like you can go wherever, but so it's beauty. I became a marathon runner I haven't done one in 10 years, but I mean, I started when I was 42. So that's like 16 years ago. I started just running out on the streets of Glendale, and I ran 5 marathons in 2 years because I could run on the streets of Glendale year round. You go out in December in shorts and a t-shirt. You go out in the summer early in the shorts and t-shirt. So the convenience of, I believe, the weather allows for business to go on year round unfettered. And it's a rat race, so it's very expensive. So everyone is pushing.
Yeah.
You go out here to Franklin, Tennessee, and it's like no one has anywhere to go. Like I'm behind like 8 cars. I'm going, don't you people? They voluntarily go in the slow lane and leave the fast lane wide open. Of course, and those are all Californians going, I know what the fast lane's for.
So when you see somebody using it, that, they're not from here.
Yeah, the culture really is like, you have to go. Yeah. So the artists, businessmen, there are no lazy businessmen in California. Yeah. There's no bad restaurants either. You'd go out of business. If you serve bad food, the rent and everything is so expensive, you'd go out of business in a couple months if you don't do good food. In Tennessee, you could serve slop and you'll stay open for a lifetime. Yeah. Like the worst dog food, Mexican food you ever had. It's the most popular place because it's the only one. It's all you're going to get is like ketchup on your tacos.
So how long did you end up living there? When did you move away from California? Because you went to Colorado, right? First?
Yeah, I had a small 9-month stint. That was just kind of a weighing point. It's really, we got $1.5 million house in Glendale that we couldn't afford anymore. My art career, Hollywood career dried up because of the political correct thing. I opposed gay marriage. Yeah. And so career over. And then we just had to kind of fire sale the house, lost all of our equity in it to get out. So that was 2012. I believe, and VeggieTales hired us out. DreamWorks/Netflix, ironically, LA companies hired me to come out and run the VeggieTales for 4 years. That was 2013 to 17. And we got back on our feet because I was getting paid LA wages, but living out here in Franklin, Tennessee, on the front end of the big boom out here, where a bunch of people from all these other areas came in here. Yeah. So even the reason why I'm here is only because I was one of the few Christian animators that would be willing to move out here back then. Now everyone wants to move out here.
And so you were there most of your life and have
Yeah.
this like deep affection for it. It's where you came up. It's where, and
Yeah, 48 years. 48 years.
could you talk a little bit about the like you said, like, I'm a soft LA artist, I'm a soft California artist. What does that even mean? What does it mean to be that kind of like LA artist as opposed to somebody who might pick that up in like start in Franklin, Tennessee? What does that do to your work?
It's, I mean, culturally, it's not the same as New York, right? New York is an urban center full of artists, but they're uh, pretending to be Europe.
Okay.
You know, they're much harsher. California, that's where skateboarding started.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's got the beach influence is very much there.
Mm-hmm.
Mexican food, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
punk rock, the LA band scene is
Mm-hmm.
huge. You go down Sunset, you go to the Whiskey, and there's all your favorite bands,
Yeah.
are playing in these and stand-up comedy clubs. And
Yeah.
it's very much an entertainment town. So that affects the arts because it's much more friendly to pop culture and pop media and mass media. Everything's thought of as not so much like little community theater.
Yeah.
It's thought of as being broadcast everywhere. You have to make entertainment for everyone to get enough butts in the seat.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it was always kind of the TV culture was real big in that art community. It was a little more commercial based because of that size. It influences the arts, it influences the artists, it influences who gets hired and who's working. For instance, if you want to be an artist for animation, they're going to ramp up a show and they're going to hire a storyboard artist and a character designer and a da-da-da, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be that guy. And I told my son this, who goes, oh, I want to be an artist. I go, really? He goes, I want to work in animation. And I go, well, you only do like one kind of anime style right now.
Mm-hmm.
You like this one book and you're learning to draw that style. If you're going to get on a show, you might get on Muppet Babies one year, SpongeBob the next year, the Batman animated series another year. You have to be able to draw anything. So it really is like and that will drain kind of the unique features of your art because you're not going to be high unless you're the main guy. It's why I always wanted to own my own shows, to be the main guy. Unless you're the main guy, you're going to go and illustrate someone else's style. You're going to do Adventure Time or My Little Pony or Steven Universe next year. And so you have to adapt to that style, which it really is a bigger skill set of being able to draw anything versus just drawing whatever flows from your little heart,
right? Yeah.
Whatever you like.
So like,
it really does affect the arts.
Yeah.
It affects the writing. So the writing also, you're going to get plugged into a show. If you're a comedy writer, you might be on Cheers one week and another, Friends another, and The Office another, Saturday Night Live another. That's out in New York, actually.
Sure.
But you have to be able to write any style, detective show or whatever, if you're a police drama guy. So all of the arts, I think, are kind of homogenized toward mass media, and that interests me a lot.
Yeah.
Because communicating to 500,000 people is very different than if you communicate to a small theater, packed house is 200 people.
Right. Yeah. And so you're in LA, you're less likely to be called a sellout, but at some level it might shave off your uniqueness. Would that be like a strength weakness comparison? Whereas in New York, if you have 35 people, you may be able to do your one-man show exactly how you want, but it's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So you're not a sellout. You're a famous professional in LA.
I like that. You posted about the recent LA fires, and you talked about how the rebuilding phase is going to be interesting because it's rebuilding not just houses, but a culture and an architectural thing that was built by previous generations. So
that's right.
What would you say has been lost that makes you that might make somebody pessimistic about that project?
I'm very pessimistic. I don't believe it will be rebuilt.
Yeah.
Everything that built that town, including the animation and television industry, is gone. Like it's corrupted.
Yeah.
So it no longer has the tools, work ethic, law support. You know, how are they going to rebuild 10,000 structures? What they really need is like a Trump business mogul to go in and say, I build houses. I build 1,000 houses. Well, it's going to remove the character of some of those buildings that are 100 years old. These old, beautiful, intricate Spanish houses with clay tiles. They're not going to build 1,000 of those, each unique, all of them different than the neighbor.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to build 10,000 of those. Or on the beach, where their dream is to strip that beach of all housing to put it back in its natural state. And they're going to try and pull a permit to build back on a beach. There's no way.
So like
So the mental, not only that, but you hear about the insurance policies being canceled across the board in LA. It's not because they don't like insurance. Can you imagine that? Have you ever met an insurance salesman? Can you imagine an insurance salesman going to the most expensive houses in the world and going, oh, we don't want to do business here. We don't, it's the only place in the world they don't want to sell insurance to.
Right.
Is to the richest people. You know how much their premiums are? And the reason why is because the culture of California is it's a litigation. They don't want to face claims, lawsuits. Medicine doesn't want to practice there. Their malpractice insurance, because they're so litigious. So even their legal structure is so corrupt, so compromised, so victim oriented and against business that most businesses go, I don't feel safe. You know, my family, I dreamed of moving back to California one day. I don't anymore. It's not a safe place for your family. If your school says your kid needs their sex changed or whatever, you're not going to, you can't fight the state on that. You're in the wrong state, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just so your audience knows, there's no higher amount of conservatives in America than in California. There's more conservatives in California than there is anywhere else. It's just they're a low percentile compared to the number of liberals. But the actual head count of conservatives, there's, just because of the population size, there's no more conservatives than in California.
Yeah. So where these recent fires are politically, do you know like what the political layout of that area is?
Yeah, that's what's weird is they hit all blue areas. I mean, all blue voters, all of them. So Pasadena, Altadena, going east, out past Pasadena, east and north, is probably the closest you'll get into red zones. But even then, you're not getting anything like what we would call voting red or Republican. It's going to be, mostly Democrat. But in the Palisades, it's like 80%, Democrat. So the Palisades, that beachfront community, that is the most insane liberals. They voted for, every one of those people voted for, and here's how bad they are. They'd probably vote for them again.
So
that's how.
Yeah. So like the money comes from the power, right? So people get money because they have power and they want to live in the prettiest place in the whole world. And so they buy land here. And the people who have been the most powerful have been the most politically liberal. And so that transforms the state, how, in what way do those mass numbers of conservatives, how do they still feel comfortable there? Or like, what are they doing there?
Well, that's what I lived in Glendale, which is relatively conservative. There's a huge Armenian population that are much more conservative. You'd go down to Brand Park in Glendale, this huge old park, and on a Sunday, and it was just hundreds of Armenian families.
Okay. Yeah.
Not rainbow wig, face piercing, no, families, dad, mom, 3 kids, all on blankets, all around this park, 5 feet apart from each other, filling it, playing baseball, barbecuing. Like it was like something from the 1950s. So there's these conservative communities and enclaves. And I had, we started our Chesterton reading group there. We'd have 13 people show up. One was the director of Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson. Another one was Michael Nelson, who did Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks. We had my Cliff Cramp, who is the head of illustration at Cal State Fullerton College. These are like conservatives. I wouldn't call Scott Derrickson a conservative. He's a flaming liberal, but Christians.
He wouldn't like that.
The rest are all hardcore conservatives. And we're reading G.K. Chesterton every week for 2 years at my house. My wife cooks them all dinner, and 13 of us. So you find it's very important out there. You find your community. There's Christians and conservatives laying around. I have 2 gay judges living across the street from me. They invite me to their New Year's party. They're all doing show tunes, of course, at New Year's, and a swimming pool full of men. So you go over there, and that's a normal part of your life. And then
in Glendale, I want to be clear. This is not happening in Franklin.
No,
no, we're still back.
This is out in Glendale. Well, it is now, because now the Californians are coming out here. So Franklin 2 years ago just approved a Pride Day against all of the populations thing. And you just go, oh, that's California's here. It goes to all the urban centers. They spread that virus out because they're here in Memphis and they're here in Nashville. So I go to a conservative Presbyterian church. Dr. George Grant, is one of our associate pastors or whatever. And they always talk about the vote count, of the presbytery in our state. And of course, everyone's conservative and biblical, except for what comes out of Nashville and Memphis. So they're even influencing the presbytery. It's urban centers that are always liberal. Liberals, because they're soft and they want the convenience, just like in California, that they collect there. And then from there, and universities tend to be there, and that's where the pollution comes out. So as California goes, so goes the rest of the United States. They're sending people are going out to urban centers, and then it's spreading out to the community through the internet, through universities, through entertainment.
So that we talked a little bit about optimism, pessimism with the rebuilding. I'm curious because there's something natural about a bunch of stuff that was built up over the course of hundreds of years, a couple hundred years, and houses that took craftsmen and architects and people paying attention to the tiling, people paying attention to every single detail. That's not going to be replaced overnight. So there's a natural barrier to, this is not going to turn out the same way as it would. But so that's the natural barrier, but what are the artificial barriers? What are the things that make it in particular, this one's not going to work out? Not just
it's not going to work out. They can't get lumber. California used to have a lumber industry. So they're going to have to import all the lumber. You're in a state where the philosophy hates building. It's all of their laws are designed to keep people from building on the environment. They have, the bird, the California gnatcatcher, but they count animals on empty lots in the middle of LA to make sure that there's not a species impact. On a dirt lot in the middle of LA, they have environmental resistance to building. So all those laws are still in place. The slow walking of permits, which is intentional, is all in place. So that has to be removed or changed or emergency ordered. I don't know how you get around the law. Or you have to emergency pass new laws to remove those barriers, because it is made to where you can't pull a permit to build. It is very hard to do. And you have, thousands of people that are now homeless. They don't have a home. You're not getting back in your house for at least 4 years. That's going to fall within an election cycle in California. That's going to be interesting. You're going to be homeless. And I just don't know if it'll offset even the horror of what just happened, because A similar thing happened to San Francisco. San Francisco is a beautiful city and it's been ruined, right? There's needles on the sidewalk and poop everywhere and humans walking around.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent to their fire. Businesses moved out. It's all ruined. The residents are being attacked in their cars and stuff. And they go through an election cycle and they're voting Democrats in. So I actually, to me, they used to say that a Republican is just a liberal who got mugged.
Right.
A Republican is actually a liberal who got mugged, but is capable of learning. A liberal
Sure, yeah.
is a liberal who got mugged, but is incapable of learning. So I don't know.
Right.
And that's why I keep saying that the woke thing is a religion, the environmentalism and the anti-business, anti-human lack of empathy for others, is an ideology so deep in that blue area,
right,
that I don't think they're going to, because it's very hard for you to give up your religion.
Yeah, and it's fascinating that this is happening in California, which was the end of the frontier. And so you've got people who were builders. This was made by building types. This is frontiersmen.
Mm-hmm.
This is people who want to get out there. And then how do you change those people? Obviously you can have new people move in and that changes the dynamic of what's going on. But it does seem like the only way to really change the nature of those people is religious. So you change every single one of their values. Yeah. So it just turns it totally on their head. So now all their habits, I have to, even if I'm a building type person or I come from building type people, I've got to check that by my religion. But I can't be that type of person because there's a spotted owl on this particular piece of land. I hadn't even thought about the passing of the permit stuff, but that makes total sense. And that's
they're not going to rebuild those houses.
Yeah,
there's whole on a mountaintop. Yeah. There's just a giant neighborhood of 1,000 units. Yeah, I just don't see it. I can't even imagine it with what is there now without a law change and even then a mind change. The same people who screwed up that state are now going to try to fix it.
Right.
These people can't build anything anymore. And that's why I just keep going. When I see and I see this philosophy here in Franklin, Tennessee, when you see the woke virus, liberalism, progressivism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it, paganism, it's paganism.
Sure. Yeah.
You see it here and you just go, oh, I know what the end game of this is. It grows until it's big enough. It gets a tipping point and then it ruins the majority of things.
Right.
It ruins art. It has ruined music. Mm-hmm. Sports. We thought sports were safe and they're all kneeling now to communists. Oh, we thought beer was safe. Oh, they hired a trans guy you just think anything is safe. And as soon as it touches it, it just turns to AIDS and dies.
Yeah.
And that's in your conservative town and your small town. If you see it show up, and really the soft sell of it is feminism, which is paganism. But feminism is the one that has probably gone the farthest, that is anti-God and pro-paganism. Feminism is probably the philosophy and coupled with relativism that has the legs that has run the farthest into our conservative communities and families and churches.
Yeah. So that's the sort of, you've got the philosophical side that spreads that, and then you've got the physical side of they can't rebuild it, but they don't have what's capable.
Can't rebuild it.
So you've got this, they can't build what they've just torn down. And it's wild.
Gavin Newsom tore down 4 dams.
I did not know that. Okay. Wow.
Californians voted in 2014 to spend billions of dollars on reservoirs to hold water. Yeah. He hasn't built one. And meanwhile, he tore down 4 dams along the Hetch Hetchy River that brings water from the north down to LA. Is Gavin Newsom going to make an announcement? I'm going to rebuild 4 dams and put the Delta smelt in danger because it's going to raise the water table in the areas where it lives. And I'm going to build reservoirs and fill reservoirs to hold water in case we ever have another fire. I'm looking for that announcement. That's like first base.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I talked in the intro. I just recorded the intro for this and talked about how you've got people who have built their entire careers on fixing fake problems or fixing problems that are not really problems. So like having the LA Fire Department be mostly men is not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But that's the thing that they spend all their energy on. And so when a fire comes along, oh, well, that's not my job. And so like, I'm sure you saw the video being passed around of the lady who said, she was talking about like, well, if your husband gets himself in a fire and I've got to carry him out, he's got himself in the wrong situation. It's like, okay, well, that's,
I'll say you're in the wrong state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The wrong place. Exactly. Yeah. Wrong place being California. But like they don't see themselves as, oh, I'm here to solve problems in the same way that, like, Gavin Newsom doesn't see like, oh, I'm here to make sure that California stays happy, healthy, building, go, like, you know, and there's a reason, yeah, that Elon Musk moved years ago. But do you think, I mean, I don't think that there will be like mass turning around where people go like, oh, now that there's a physical manifestation of the ruin of California, oh, now I've totally changed everything I believe. 'Cause, I mean, that's not how you necessarily, like, it's not how you change people's hearts and minds necessarily. It doesn't do it automatically, but like the capability of changing somebody's mind, I think, is what you said earlier is huge. 'Cause like, yeah, absolutely, you can get mugged or you can get your house burned down and not ask a single question and have this, back to the religious point, this religious devotion to, but it can't be because of anything I've done, right? It can't, I can't be personally responsible for this thing, which is the same move Gavin Newsom's doing. But yeah, like he's obsessed with the fake problems and is willing to bring out all this stuff. What do you make of the difference between this kind of obvious tragedy? I mean, you've got natural elements, you've got like artificial elements, people coming in, like setting fires, and that's all mixed in. But what do you make of the difference between this and like the North Carolina, Georgia flooding and hurricane stuff that was happening last year? Do you see a difference in like on the ground relation between these two things and like the leadership from above?
Yeah, I mean, if it'd be a stretch for me to find a similarity to Wade, but I would say if there is one, it's natural disasters of that size are really just marketing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, but those problems, those infrastructure problems are only one of thousands of problems that an ideology presents. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, the response, even in those hurricanes, might be that more neighbors come up to help or whatever, or with a flood. These are just disasters that you can't negotiate.
Sure.
The same with the giant fires. Just 100-mile-an-hour wind when the wind's going like this and blowing the wrong way. There's a lot of things you can do with disaster relief if you get people on the ground and come in right away. If FEMA hit the ground right away in North Carolina, and there are things that are so big that it's wrong to think that an rugged individualism is going to save just you and your family. There's things that are so big that it's definitely a government job, government emergency preparedness job. And so then you see the difference in who's effective. Well, Ron DeSantis is very effective. He still had a complete inhuman disaster show up. Right. But it just doesn't have as high of a body count, or they repair and turn it around quicker because of their preparedness. And so that's why I take away that environmental argument from the fire, because they're trying to say, well, who can fight 100-mile-an-hour winds? I'm like, I only know that a bunch of conservative workaholic hardcore male firefighters will mitigate it better than a bunch of female firefighters.
Sure.
Amount of shovels full of dirt.
Yeah.
Or a conservative who was more prudent, who saw ahead, knew there was a dry spell. Like I said, they ordered those reservoirs back in 2014. The people voted on it, said, yeah, we want reservoirs, and Gavin Newsom didn't build it. A different governor would have built that. That would make a difference if the firefighters were turning on hoses and water was coming out full speed instead of nothing.
Right.
So it's more, if it was just a fire, I wouldn't be hopeless about California. It's just so much more than just a fire. Like I said, it's litigation, DEI hires of their emergency personnel, no insurance. Why would insurance be there? There's no lumber. There's no muscular workers doing construction because it's a town that is hostile to construction. It's like there's nothing there. This philosophy is being revealed in this one crisis in a big way, right? And it's only because it's such a big public disaster that it'd be similar if an earthquake hit in that area. You'd see it, the same thing. But it has to be like that size of a thing because they would have just hummed along with the same philosophy. You'd never know about the kids being taken away from their parents. They don't make the front page. But all these rich liberals that vote liberal, boy, you burn their house down, their home down, and now suddenly they're getting empathy going, holy cow, we feel because something happened to us, like what we're doing to other people. Now we feel what it's like to not have a house.
The one thing that's interesting to me, like I remember when the flooding was happening after the hurricane, and you saw all these guys who were having trouble. They were guys with helicopters who could go in and do rescue missions, and were just like having to ignore FAA stuff, having to ignore.
That's
FEMA. And I don't see that. Maybe it's happening at a level. I mean, we're too close, I think, right now to really evaluate the fires long term. But do you see like? I think there's like ownership of that community that was happening in North Carolina and Georgia, where guys are just going like, I'm going to go out. It's my turn. And like, it was not the official way of doing it. Like FEMA was late and they were having to fight off volunteers. They were pushing back the volunteers. And I think part of that has to do with like ownership of a place and also the family formation, like unofficial ties, things that aren't government mandated, like local clubs and churches and family associations. It seems like LA. Can you do you think that there's anything similar like that? Is there are the bonds as tight there? Where I mean, you mentioned the Armenian community. I'm sure that they're probably dealing with it. They might be able to deal with it better than maybe somebody who is like never talks to their neighbors.
I mean, it just operates with a different culture. LA is a culture based on a massive population. And so there isn't a need to take care of your neighbors as much.
So there's not that closeness there.
When you have a fire in LA, I mean, I'd be afraid for my life. Like you're just in a massive evacuation. When you have a flood in a small state, population of 5 million people, which is smaller than LA itself, the entire state. It's like if you spread LA across an entire state. So it creates a different culture. That's why they call the South, the volunteer state. We're all the volunteer states. We know that the people have to be more responsible because you're just not going to be able to build an infrastructure that reaches into those smaller areas. So you're much more reliant on each other, on your own family. It builds bigger families, stronger families, and all that. LA, that's why it's way more government dependent than neighborhood dependent. So it's just a different culture. It's hard to compare them. The disasters are similar. But
but does that is there a philosophical element to that too? Is it like an ideological, it seems like Christianity, Southern, I mean, that totally makes sense. The idea that like high population would mean more, government structures. But like, is there
and when it's an evacuation, it's just time to get out, and your biggest fear is to get run over. In LA.
Unless you're a looter, right?
Run over by 10,000 people.
Right. And so but if it seems to me though that like part of the thing that happened in the South was a familial Christian kind of, there was like a ideas component to that as well. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, because the physical explanation totally makes sense. People just want to get out of
Yeah.
the way. But is that philosophy actually like breaking down those social bonds that might form, even though there's a huge population there?
Yeah, like the biggest difference when we left California is California has very high barriers, they say, high social barriers, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Between you and a stranger, because you just suspect them.
Sure.
Whereas in the South, and I should say they have the two walls, right? There's the exterior wall and the interior wall.
Yeah.
In California, you have high exterior walls.
Okay.
Because you might have a terrorist living right next door. It's
Sure.
very common, right? To have just a lunatic
It happens.
living next door. So you're going to have a high social wall and then a low interior wall. Once they get past that outer wall, you're building community on the inside very close. In the South, it's the opposite. And I found it true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very low exterior wall, very kind. Hey, brother, brought you a pie. But man, get into that interior wall. Make an intimate friend. It's very hard.
Yeah. Oh, that is the real deal. Yeah.
Old, it's like old money versus new money or something. So the walls are still there.
Right.
And I culturally was very happy. I'm very happy on the front lines of LA.
Yeah.
I loved it as a evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel a lot more comfortable telling atheists about Jesus than even what's difficult for me is to sit in my own church and just enjoy the sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go out. The front lines are over there. They're melting out there, man.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. I relate to that. That makes a lot of sense. So your work, you do, right now you're just attracted to like mass media. You do like, you've been doing mass stuff for a long time. Independent now, not dependent on the like structures of multi-person teams. So can you talk a little about your how you see your videos relating to that, like mass media, like passion for getting out to people, passion for being on the front lines? Is that your outlet for you feeling like, okay, I'm talking to people who need me?
Yeah, very much. And independent online media now, it's bigger than ever.
Yeah.
I have way more fans now doing politics than I ever did as an artist, which is really weird. I do these junky tabloid pro-Trump YouTube videos. They're like maybe 4 minutes long. I do them by myself, very low production value. And I've never been more popular. And by that, I just mean I have like a captive audience of, say, I have 30,000 loyals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's you personally. It's not like a character you created. It's like,
right.
It's clicking on.
Right.
Face.
It's me just talking, telling people what I think about the politics of the day. So it's my opinion.
Yeah.
There's more of me coming out of this work than I would ever be allowed to have me express in VeggieTales.
Sure.
I'm not allowed to sit there and tell people vote for Trump. That's sent the hell out of that stuff.
Right.
In fact, I've even shared the gospel more explicitly on my own political channel than when I'd be allowed to do on VeggieTales, which is famously an evangelical cartoon that never evangelized a single person.
Right. Right.
It just, so yeah. I'm only saying there's incredible fun in trying to kind of crack that mass audience where you go, how big can it get to get the truth out to the most people?
Right.
And yet a whole lot of people are hostile to the truth, and it'll start to shrink your audience if you're too truthful. Mm-hmm. And so you're always trying to kind of maximize the size,
right,
and yet not sell out as it would take to, if I blanded out everything and just became something else.
Yeah.
I might be more successful, but I'm not interested in that because that would cause me to drain too much of myself out or too much of the truth out of my work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the balance on mass media. But I'm only saying, I I have a lot of respect for like people who can run a room. Like I saw Jim Gaffigan out here at the Bridgemore, say 4 years ago, do stand-up comedy, and he ran a whole arena.
Yeah.
Everyone's just, or a great pastor where everyone in the audience goes like, whoa.
Yeah.
Or a musician at a coffee bar and everyone's just like crying when they sing their rendition of whatever. I just go, that person is really good at getting empathy across a large group compared to if I just have to perform for a small 8-man Bible study of my friends. That's easy. Different art skill. And I do believe that talking to a lot of people is a very interesting skill.
Yeah. I first started watching you, reading you. I watched your old art streams. So when you were doing Bigfoot Bill, you were streaming that, and you would bring people on just talk about different stuff while you're doing that. And I remember listening to those conversations while also having pre-ordered Bigfoot Bill. Really was really excited about it at the time.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Love Bigfoot Bill. When you started doing political videos, I think it was end of 2020. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I had been a fan. I think that was, I started listening to you in 2018, 2019, something like that. And then was listening all the way through there. And then I knew people who were fans of yours for the art, and then thought, oh, I guess he's doing political stuff now. But like, I totally recognized, oh, that's absolutely the same instinct that you have. Like your desire to like communicate clearly, your passion for like getting ideas to people. And yeah, just like you as a person doing this, I think is so much fun because you're not just a guy who's like studied being a political pundit for your life. It's you bring yourself, and you bring so all your videos. I recommend everybody watch every Doug and Exile video. And I've been enjoying them across every channel that you've had. How many is it at this point?
Sometimes it's a mission to find me.
Yeah. How many channels has it been? 5, you said? Something like that?
Yeah, I think it's up to more than that now. I think I'm up to 7.
Okay. But you're on X.
7. I've had 5 demolished. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm a big fan and have been. I think you were one of the only guys back in the end of 2020 still talking about like election interference stuff. Not that ever has happened. Yeah. YouTube. If this is on YouTube, then
we would never.
Nobody has ever interfered with any election.
YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. But
we let the Democrats make that claim now.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's
them all day, not us.
Yeah. But I like I said, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time, and seeing your personality in stuff that I can give to my kids, like they absolutely love Bad Island and Cardboard and Newts and all those books. They're huge fans of those, but also like seeing the continuity between that and who you are in your videos. And so those are at least a couple of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, talk about who you are, talk about California, talk about things like that. But thank you so much for sitting down with me. Everybody check out, could you let people know where to find you on X and YouTube, and at least right now?
Sure. I'm Doug TenNapel on X and YouTube. And then I'm Doug in Exile is another. The rest of it starts getting trivial and more broken down. But look for Doug TenNapel on YouTube, and I have a faceless channel called John Mike Keen, Keen, on YouTube. That's kind of my second faceless channel. It's my insurance policy. But
very cool.
And I still, I love getting to talk to you this way, Wade.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how we'd talk this way in private. There's not too much going through a filter.
Sure.
But I like the idea of people, in fact, I wish we could get the whole audience in on the discussion.
Yeah, totally.
Because we're just peers. We're not famous people putting on a presentation. It's like, but this is reality. This is worth considering, and then the pipeline that this goes out on is just amazing to me. Yeah. It's near miraculous to me as a mass media artist. I think it's just amazing.
Well, thank you again for coming on, and I hope to talk to you again in this venue and elsewhere.
Anytime, anywhere, Wade. It's my pleasure. Thank you, brother.
All right, see you, Doug.